Hi everyone, it's Jem here and welcome back to the Colour Cave where we like to play with art stuff, and welcome to our very relaxing Sunday draw and chat. I was really pleased at the response from the last one and that you guys wanted to see another one, so here we are. So just to kind of like set the mood, it's very quiet here at the farm today. Everybody's kind of chilled out and I just want to kind of like have a little scribble. So standard sort of procedure here is my sketchbook, which is an ELO 8x8 sketchbook, a mechanical pencil, which is an HB, it's just a cheap one, and my trusty kneaded eraser. Just recently in the scroller challenge, I drew a little fish jumping out of a fountain going, ta-da, look at me. Well, that was the idea anyway. And it kind of, going through that process, I've actually got it, yeah, here. Going through that process, I realised things like fountains, it's not something that I draw. I prefer to draw organic shapes, and I do draw a lot of animals and that kind of thing. And I had to look up some reference photos to get an idea of the sort of structure of a fountain and, you know, how ornate or not ornate they could be. And I just kind of wanted to explore that a bit further. Again, I'm not really into sort of structures and buildings and that kind of thing. And I feel that a fountain's like somewhere between the two, because obviously there's a very structural element to it, but they can be incredibly ornate and fancy. So I thought, seeing that most of them are in stone as well, it kind of lends itself really well to working in graphite. So I thought I'd maybe give that a bit of a bash today and just see how we get on. Now, one of the first things is that I don't normally use a ruler. I like to train and practice my muscle memory to draw straight lines as much as possible with a free hand. However, because fountains are sort of quite rigid, I wanted just to give myself a centre line. So I'm just going to draw a very faint line down the middle, and I don't see this. It's not like I think that using a ruler is cheating. If you're drawing buildings and things, obviously it's going to be in your interest to do that, but I just don't want to end up with the whole thing being really off and sort of the word we would use, the Scottish word we would use is skew with, which just means wonky. Right, I hope you can see that line, just to know more. I have to remember as well when I'm doing this, I have to press harder than I normally would if I was just sketching for myself, because you guys need to be able to see it on the camera. So the reference image that I'm using, I shall pop up somewhere on the screen for you periodically, just so that you can see what I am working towards and so that you aren't sort of watching blind. I really like this fountain because it's got a pineapple on the top of it, and that's about as close to an organic shape as I'm going to get. So I just want to put the basic structure down first. So there's this sort of pineapple shape at the top, and I'll refine this as I go. I just need to get those sort of basic shapes down, and if I'm drawing something like this, I tend to do this, and I just use simple shapes to, you know, get this sort of rough idea down, and everybody does this differently. And I have been told on several occasions that you should really work in 3D shapes, not 2D shapes. That's something that I think if you're drawing anatomy, whether it's animal or human, then that is a really, you know, a really good idea. But I think for stuff like this, it's maybe not just quite as necessary. Okay, so we've got a kind of weird teardrop shaped thing here. This just helps as well, I find, to get proportions. Now, interestingly, I was just talking about 3D shapes there, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. So I've just contradicted myself already. Yeah, good Jem. Now I can see already that that centre line that my drawing is off, it's actually sitting more towards the right hand side, because you can see in all the shapes that I've drawn already, this side is skinnier than this side. Now I don't know if that's a side effect of being left-handed, you know, I've like subconsciously shunted it over that way slightly. So I'm just going to try and even this out a little bit, and it's good if you can spy things like this like right at the beginning. It is a you know, a big help to you, because it stops you getting too far into your drawing and then realising that you screwed it up. Okay, so we've got this, and it's got this sort of ornate squiggly bit, so I'm going to give that its own shape so I can work within that confine. And then we've got this kind of like weird bowl shape. Well, it's not weird, but it's the challenge with drawing things like this as well is very symmetrical, and it is difficult when you're drawing traditionally. It is more difficult to to keep that evenness. Obviously, if you're drawing digitally, you can just flip your sheet, you know, draw one half, and then you can just flip it and you'll have it identical on the other side. And that's also a really good way to check how accurate your drawings are, because if you flip it and it isn't a perfect mirror image, you know that there's something wrong. But when it comes to traditional drawing, this is really sort of more of a challenge. Trying to remember to lean harder. Come on, Jem. And we've got another one of these funny sort of bag shapes. And I think these are both the same size by the looks of them. So, again, I think I've made that one slightly larger. Never mind. And then we've got this bowl part that comes around like this. And this sits out way further than this. So, yeah, like that kind of shape. Ooh. And then we've got a little edge here. And then this shape again. Whee! This is fun. Yeah, it's kind of strange today. Everything's really quiet. The boys are the boys. My husband, my dear husband, and his employee, the young shepherd that works for us, they are away. That's too big. Okay. They are away making silage. I've had this conversation about silage before, and I'm aware that a lot of people don't know what silage is. Silage is basically fermented grass, and yeah, so I should really explain the difference between straw hay and silage. That would probably be a better place to start. Straw is basically the stems from your crop, so whether it's oats or wheat, which is kind of normal for us, or whether it is, you know, oats or something else. And basically the stem, once you have taken away the grain from the top, you're left with this stem, and it's called straw because it's hollow. It's like a drinking straw, and you can squish that up into big bales, and they can be square or they can be cylindrical. We have big cylindrical ones. That's what our baler does. It squishes them into that. So that's your straw. It's of absolutely zero nutritional value for the cows, so we tend to use it. That was my laptop, don't mind that. We tend to use it as bedding and as a kind of like a filler food to bulk out the animal feed. Okay, that's a pretty epic drawing already. I'm still slightly off, I think, in my dimensions here, but I don't think I'm off to a bad start. Hey, that's barely in shot. So there we go. That's okay. Yeah, I'm okay with this. For a starting point, I am a-okay with this. Right, good. Let's work on the pineapple. Yes, so that's your straw. Hay is grass that has been cut and it's been left to dry out on the ground. So we tend to make hay when it is warm and sunny, and you cut it and you leave it for a day or two, and every now and then you flip it over, because with the big industrial lawnmowers, it kind of cuts everything off into rows. So what happens is the stuff on the top dries off and turns that sort of dry, pale, hay way, and the stuff underneath is still green and wet, so you've got to flip it over so that the sunlight can get to it and dry it out. So we do that, and then we do the same thing, we bale it up. Now silage is when you cut grass and you bale it while it's still fresh, so it's still got a moisture content in it, and you basically wrap it in plastic, and what happens then is it starts to ferment, and by the time the winter comes round, you can use it to feed your animals, and they have a really nutritious and what they think is tasty tasty forage for them to eat. So yeah, that's the ins and outs of it. So now you know. It's terribly exciting. Right, there's a kind of squiggly pattern going on here, and I don't think my pineapple's fat enough. I'm going to bring this out a bit. The top of this looks like a thistle, which is entertaining because I'm Scottish. Haha. Yeah, okay. I'm sorry, my chat's not great today, is it? Okay, so let's try and put in this squiggle. So there's a bit here, and then comes like instantly up. I may have bitten off more than I can chew with this, but we'll see. See, that one's quite, and then this one really widens out a bit. And but it's not in the middle. It's not central. And then this comes round like this, and then you can just see the back part of the last one there. And from that underneath, I think this bottom part just comes down, doesn't it? Now, is there some kind of pattern on that? Yeah, there is. There's lots of, oh goodness me, this is horrendous. There's lots of pattern on it. So let's take away some of these lines. Yeah, so the farm's really quiet today, which is really nice. I'm really enjoying it. And my canines are quiet also. I have got Jock and Woo in the cave with me. I've also got some tea. And I think Pip's in the kitchen. Right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to zoom in a little bit. And we're going to work on this pineapple area. So in this part, we've got these top parts which kind of like curl over. So I can take this shape away, take most of it away. I can just see the line of the triangle that I drew there. I know you guys won't be able to see that. There's no chance in hell you'll be able to see that. So we'll just have to work away from that. Now, I do have the reference image right beside me, so I'm just going to use that to my advantage right now. So we've got these little bits that sort of curl over, and then they kind of come down at an angle. So these are obviously being hit by the sunlight, you know, the parts that the parts that curl forward. So that's the sort of paler areas, and then the rest of it's just sort of. This is really difficult. So we want to start bringing some of these lines in now. That was another one really close in there. And then we want to get some shadow in underneath here. Like this. This is kind of good. And then we have to start putting these shapes on here. They don't really look like pineapple segments, you know, on the skin. I mean, they're just sort of like, they look like sort of pebble shapes. So I'm just going to start drawing some of this in. With things like this, when I'm in my sketchbook, I tend not to bother about them being, you know, 100% accurate. As long as I've got the general feel and it's not going to put out anything else in terms of the actual piece itself, then I tend not to get too hung up on it. It's different if I'm drawing something, I want something to be completely photorealistic, then obviously then take a bit more time over it, but I'll get into this. I'm actually suspicious that Pip is as quiet as she is. Maybe she's hiding something, I don't know. I think she's asleep actually. She's been really quiet though. She has had her first season and it has quietened her down a lot. Now the sun seems to be coming from this direction because there's a lot of shadow on this side. So in under here, this is going to get progressively darker as we head over here. So I'm just going to darken up some of this in here, because the sun's not really going to hit that too well. Yeah, so Pip's been a little bit quieter, which is really nice. Oh. Right, now what I'm going to do is lighten up this line on this side of my pineapple, because as I say, that's the side that the sun seems to be hitting, so we don't want that to be sticking out too far. And I'm going to start adding in my shadows on all these little sections. So the shadows on this side are much, much heavier. I'm going to get that in and down. So yeah, Pip's been a little bit more bearable this last little while in terms of her energy levels and just her general excitement about the world. We have found out she is absolutely terrified of other dogs that aren't our dogs, which is not ideal. It's really not ideal. And we're trying to very slowly introduce her to other dogs, but it's not. It's just not going so well at all. I don't know where this fear has come from, because she's never had any problems with any other dogs, but she's not a happy camper at all, and I don't want her to be like that. We've also started introducing her to the quad bike, because it is now time for her to, well, it's nearly time for her to go and start working the sheep. And the quad bike, the dogs sit on the back of the quad bike. That is the sort of primary mode of transport when you're working with sheep. So she has a healthy curiosity of it, which is good, and we've had her sat on it with the engine running, and all we've done is we've sat her up beside Jock, because the minute you go near a quad bike, Jock gets on, because he loves it. He loves being on the back of the quad bike. So it's a very gentle process, but she seems to have a natural curiosity, and it's a healthy curiosity, so that's good in terms of us getting her moving on it. So that's where we are with that. And we have also been in the field with the sheep. We have not been near the sheep, but we have been next to them, and her previous experience of sheep is to see them through a fence. And to begin with, when she was very small, she used to bark at them, which was hilarious. So she's aware of them now, and she's curious about them, so that is another good thing as well, because the last thing we want is our number one being scared of them or not being interested in them at all. That's worse. So that's it. We're on a really good first step with her that way. I'm gonna fix this bit. So it's a very slow process. It's very gradual, but she's not even a year old yet, so technically we shouldn't be, trying to train her or push her just yet, but we need to start introducing her to these things so that she kind of gets the hang of what's going on. But she does actually follow Jock everywhere, and she copies everything Jock does, so I don't think we're going to have any problems, because when she sees Jock working, she's going to be like, oh, I want a shot of that. Okay, so my pineapple's looking not very much like a pineapple, to be fair, but it's starting to take shape. Now with these parts here, I think this actually comes down. It's very difficult to see the detail in this sort of underneath part here, but it looks like it's got a couple of kind of knobbly bits that stick out, as if someone's sort of stacked like flat stones on top of each other. So we'll maybe go with that. So let's get some shadow in here and really define this squiggly bit, sort of ornate squiggly area. That's something, see doing this channel, I've learned that I have this obsession with wanting to know the proper scientific or technical names for things. And when you are filming videos, that literally just goes out the window, because if you don't know it and you don't have it to hand in the sort of forefront of your mind, you can forget it. And I do tend to make up words and use sort of more descriptive terms for things, and I've noticed that I do it a lot. And especially when it comes to things like naming the anatomy of fish body parts, and I'm just not very good at it at all. Nobody seems to mind, though. Nobody's complained about it, so yeah. it's fine. Yeah, the squiggly bit, the doofery bit that pops out, and yeah, of course you do. Oh man. I don't like to be ignorant of things, and if I am, I like people to correct me, because I don't want to appear stupid. But there's just some things like, what do you call that? What do you call that? It's like a frilly bit. Right, I've just noticed here, this part that sticks up my pineapple's actually supposed to come out to there, which would probably make it look less pineapple shaped, but I'm going to go with it. I think I have to remind myself as well, even though I'm filming this, I am still in my sketchbook. I am, you know, this isn't meant to be a masterpiece or anything like that. This is just practice, and people are often quite disappointed, and I don't know if any of you have had this happen to you, but if you're drawing somewhere and someone gets really excited and they're like, oh, you're an artist, and they ask to see your sketchbook, and you're like, really, honestly, there's nothing exciting in it. It's a sketchbook. I think they expect you to open it up and for it to have like all these sort of finished drawings in it, and that's not what a sketchbook's for. I don't know, it's something that happens to me quite a lot, and I'm always a bit kind of weird about showing people it because they're, you know, it's like, yeah, you're not going to get anything exciting out of this. And I don't want them to think that I'm a crappy artist. So maybe it's just me. If any of you have had experience of that, please share, because it's something that I feel a bit weird about, and I don't actually really like people looking in my sketchbook. It's like, you wouldn't, if someone was like writing in a journal or like you wouldn't walk up to them and say, oh, okay, you journal, that's awesome, can I see it? Because they'd be like, no. I kind of feel that way about my sketchbook. I don't know, maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm just being weird. Am I being weird, guys? Okay, so just taking away some of these sort of construction lines now. And I'm kind of gonna go with this kind of like flat stone. There's two sections here. There's one here, and it kind of, oh, here's Pip coming now. Hi, Pip. Were you sleeping? She's just looking. She's not even wagging her tail. She's just looking at me. Are you like in a bad mood or something, dog? What's wrong with you? Oh, bit of a stretch. Yeah, we've been lying down. And then I'm just gonna start putting in like these. Oh, this is looking weird now. Sorry guys, I'm having to concentrate a bit here. I don't know why either. But let's just, yeah, let's pop these in here. Yes, I keep having to remember as well, even though I'm filming this, I'm still just in my sketchbook. I'm just messing around. That's the idea, that's the plan. And when you're doing stuff like this, I think it's more about, well, for me anyway, if I'm trying to figure out an idea for something, then it really is just like loose sketch lines. Like I showed you on the previous page, that was my plan for my scroller challenge. I mean, there is nothing that even remotely resembles decent artwork there. But again, this is back to this thing I'm talking about, people wanting to look in your sketchbook. I'm like, I don't really want you to look in my sketchbook because it's not that good. I don't know. Maybe I'm just being silly, I don't know. The other thing I wanted to ask you all as well, if you are watching or you're sitting sketching, listening to me talk, that, you know, things like this, I don't think I'm going to get anywhere near what would be a finished article today. Is it something that you would want me to post up somewhere, you know, to show you what happens when I finish it off, or are you not that bothered? Are you just enjoying sort of watching and listening or whatever? That would be quite handy information to know. So if you could let me know in the comments about that, that would be pretty good as well, because I'm not entirely sure what you guys want from this, or you know, what you're expecting from it. So yeah, that would be good. That would be good. So this comes quite far down. I'm just looking as well. I think there's almost like 3 layers there. I'm gonna go 3. And then we've got this bit. I have just realised I have totally messed this up. There's supposed to be a tier in here and I have completely bypassed it. Okay, let's improvise. You know what? Yeah, I can improvise. I can do this. Let's just make this into one of these shushy things. So I'm missing out a tier of the... I have no idea how this happened. See, this is because I'm trying to talk and do stuff, guys. This is why this is really difficult. Oh, good grief. Right, so let's just make this up now. I'm going to use my imagination. Also fun when you're drawing, and probably makes this a little bit more interesting anyway. So let's put like a band round there, because there's quite a lot of that going on. That is far too bold. Like that shouldn't be. well, there's nothing to say that it shouldn't be because I'm making it up now, but just using my eye and my perspective here, that shouldn't be as bendy. Bendy is that? Good God. Right, so we've got some lines here. So I'm going back to the original reference image here. So that's going to kind of be like that. And then there's one down here. We'll make that one slap bang in the middle. And then we've got one that comes this way as well, and that kind of disappears. Okay, so in this middle section here, I think I'll just leave that bit plain, I think. That might be a good idea. But I'm going to get some shadows in here now. And all I'm doing, see when I'm doing this, I'm just varying my my pencil pressure. I've said this before, I think, but when I'm in my sketchbook, I tend just to use an HB pencil. I don't really start skipping about between different, different pencil grades. And it's just because it's my sketchbook. If I'm doing graphite drawings, like finished graphite drawings, then I do use various pencils, and I actually like to sketch with an F pencil, which is supposed to be a fine pencil, and it gives you really light skinny lines, which is perfect because I draw a lot of construction lines when I'm sketching. Again, being a relatively inexperienced artist, it takes a lot of sketchy line mistakes before I could get it right sometimes. So by using an F pencil, it means I have lots of room for erasing, and I can also have lots of little lines side by side, like this. And I can pick out whichever one it is I want. I just realised you can hardly see that either. So like this. And then if I decide it's the middle one, then I can start to erase the ones round the side. So if I'm using an F pencil to do that, that's really helpful for that. And that's something that may change over time, as I get a bit more experienced and a bit more confident. But I mean, there is a huge difference. See, even now, if you look back at the early scroller challenge videos that I did, you can tell that I have, that I am becoming more confident, but I'm still not as quick as a lot of the more experienced artists. I've only been drawing a year and a half. So, these things I think they just come with practice, really. And I think it's important that you just keep going and don't give up. But I am not frightened to use an eraser. And as I say, I have like a gajillion lines when I'm sketching something out. And I just keep going until I find one that's the right one. And that seems to work really well for me. Right, there's a really dark shadow under here now. So I'm going to just stick that in first, because that's giving me a better guideline of where I want this shadow to come across. So obviously if the light's coming from this direction, this is going to be the dark side, but because it's coming slightly from from the upper part, so it's coming almost like top down, you're going to have more shadow underneath as well as on this left hand side. So you want your most intense shadows to be in the bottom left. And it's going to cast a shadow down the way as well, because the light's coming more from above than, from the side. But shading is something, I do like to sort of start it off as I'm going when I'm doing things like this, but I don't actually go back in and do the proper shading until I've completely finished my drawing. Because I think by that point you need to get those construction lines down first. Don't spend all your time messing about with, with your shading until you've got the sort of foundation of the drawing the way that you want it. Now, I don't know whether these are like indents in this, but there's a little kind of pale patch there, and then it just kind of like this. Just put a really light, because obviously this fountain isn't white. It's a stone colour, so there shouldn't really be, unless there's really, really vivid highlights, there shouldn't be any white paper really. So this middle one is kind of coming down like this. So the other horrible thing that's happened, well, it's not horrible for me, we've had some really scary news just this week. When we had Mist, which was our female collie long before Pip arrived, we had a litter of pups from her and Jock. And one of the pups went to our neighbour at the time, who they're a couple that run a bed and breakfast, and they stayed along the road from us, but they have, you know, we've become really good friends with them, and even though we've moved, we've stayed in touch with them. And they took one of the puppies, and that puppy was called Maisie. Now I call her Maisie Moo, that's just what I call her, it's like my pet name for her. And Maisie Moo still has the joys of running about at the farm where we used to live. As I say, they just stayed up the road, run a bed and breakfast, and she's forever in and out the grass. And one of the things that their owners, the one thing that they have to do with her is check her for ticks quite frequently, because she's bouncing about in the long grass. There's a high chance, and she's had one or two, and you just pluck them out and everything's fine. You get really good at that when you've got dogs that bounce about in grass, and it's something that you do, you check them over regularly. And she had become a wee bit unwell. She wasn't feeling herself, and they thought that she might have had a tick bite, and they'd missed the tick. So they checked her over, and they found a bump on her, like just beside her leg. And they took her to the vet, and the vet really couldn't find anything wrong with her. So they gave her like an antibiotic anyway, just in case, and said, you know, just keep an eye on her, and if she gets any worse, bring her back in. And she went rapidly downhill very, very quickly. And it turns out that she had been bitten by a grass adder. Now, we're not really bothered with snakes in Scotland, but the place that they stay in, there are a lot of grass adders there, because when we were there at the farm, we had a cow that was bitten in the face by one, and obviously the cow was grazing and must have got a little bit too close to this adder, and the adder bit her. And they're poisonous, they're venomous, and the cow's face, it was horrendous. It swelled up like a big balloon, and eventually all the skin started to fall off where the venom had gone into her system. Now, basically the same thing has happened to Maisie, and because it went undetected, by the time they found the bite site, which was in behind this bump in her leg, it was too late to give her any anti-venom, and she basically has this venom in her system, and it's nearly killed her. And what's happening now is that because the venom has gotten under the skin, all her skin's fallen off, and the pictures are horrendous. I mean, they're like seriously graphic, and she is not a well little dog, and obviously her owners are beside themselves, and they're very, very worried about her. And she has to wear a sort of body jacket thing now. She's got dressings on all of the areas, because they're all, I mean, like, it's like peeling the skin off an orange. She's got lots of open wounds and open sites. The venom is out of her body. She's past that. She's not sick with that anymore, which is a relief. But she's left with this. She's going to have to go through her, basically all of her skin falling off where the venom has gotten hold. And it is singularly the most traumatic thing I think anyone could go through with a dog, because if she gets an infection at any point, it will probably kill her, because her immune system's so low from fighting the venom off. So one of our little puppies, and she's not a little puppy anymore, she's 4, but she's, you know, we still think of her as one of our own, and she is very, very sick indeed. So we're keeping in touch with our friends and finding out what's going on, and you know how they're doing and things. And it's something that people don't really understand when you're looking after a sick animal over an extended period of time, because I mean that this process of all our skin falling off and hopefully regrowing is probably going to take about 6 months. And they have to try and keep her as clean as possible, make sure she doesn't move about too much, because every time she moves she's splitting skin. And trying to keep a dog sterile is virtually impossible. It's very, very stressful, and I understand how that feels, because Mist was unwell for, you know, a good 4 months before eventually we had her put down, and it takes a really big toll on you, and it's something that's quite difficult to deal with. So I was basically talking to my friend and saying, look, if you need the sort of emotional support and someone that understands the sort of gravity of what's happening, then you know that I'm here for you, kind of thing. And she said that she was really relieved because a lot of people just didn't, you know, they thought because she was out of the vets, you know, she was home and that they'd dealt with the venom situation, that was her, she's going to be all right, and she's nowhere near out the woods yet. So that's pretty horrendous. And she is so, like, if you had ever seen Mist, if any of you had ever met Mist or seen her, and you've obviously seen Jock, Maisie is split right down the middle. She is half Mist, half Jock, and that makes it hard for me because I saw Mist when she was sick, and Jock's had his fair share of things happen to him as well, and it's so horrible. It's just really horrible. So we're just keeping our fingers crossed for Maisie that she's going to be okay and she's going to get through this. But she couldn't have better doggy parents. Our friends, they had never had a dog before, and they read, you know, that it was like first time mum and dads, they read like every dog book that was like possibly available, and they trailed the internet for information on looking after collies, and they've just like done such a good job with her, and she goes everywhere with them. She's one of these dogs. Now she was at our wedding. We had Jock and Woo at our wedding, and when they came, they didn't tell me that they were bringing Maisie, and so Maisie was at my wedding too. So, you know, she goes everywhere with them, and it's just like she's just their baby, so they're, you know, you can understand how stressful that is. But we're just hoping that she makes it through, and you know, it's just one day at a time with stuff like that, but it doesn't make it any better really. Okay, so we've got more squiggly bits here, which I'm quite happy with. So the light's going to be hitting on the top of these, so they're going to be quite pale, and there's only going to be a little bit of shadow on the inside here because the light's coming, you know, this way. So I just want to put a little bit in here. Not too much though. I like how I've sort of just changed all this and kind of made it into what I want to do. Who cares about reference images? We don't need reference images. So this side there must be a little bit of shadow in here as well, but again, because this part's going to be blocking some of the light, so I'm going to pop this in here. And then just tail that off because obviously the sun will catch some of it around there. And this has got like a kind of pedestal bit, again, not that you'll see much of that. And most of this bowl part here is going to be dark, so I'm just going to start, and this kind of comes down like this, and just smooth it out a little bit, you know, make it a bit more, yeah, that's better, isn't it? Now I've got to try and match the other side up. This is the interesting part. Yeah, so if any of you are the praying type, then say a little prayer for Maisie, and hopefully we can get her through this. But see, she's got one of these jackets to wear, and it's just basically to try and keep her clean, you know, and keep our dressings and our wounds as clean as possible, because there's so large an exposed area of skin. She's just basically a bacterial risk at the moment, so it's quite important that they try and keep her as clean as possible. But she's apparently she's starting to feel a little bit better in herself, you know, now that the venom's out of her body, and she's sort of returning to a sense of normalcy, because they have to keep her as still as possible, because every time she moves she's splitting everything open, and for a collie that is like it's like telling somebody not to breathe, like don't move about, oh, okay. So she's I think she's starting to struggle a little bit with that now, because she's feeling a wee bit better, but she's still on a lot of painkillers as well, because obviously it's going to be painful. So there's periods where she conks out and she's sleeping, but then she wakes up and she feels, you know, a little bit rejuvenated, and the painkillers have kicked in, so she doesn't feel as if she's in any sort of pain. I have no idea what is going on with the light in this today. So they're kind of battling that as well, but collies need a lot of stimulation, you know, they're clever dogs, they get bored easily, so it's just not very good at all. It's not very good at all. We were the same when Miss had her eye taken out. She was supposed to be kept quiet and obviously try and stop her bashing her where her eye was, you know, the one that she had stitched up, to make sure that she wasn't like hitting it off things or whatever, because it would swell up and all the rest of it, and that was just a nightmare. It was like an absolute nightmare. And the first thing Mist wanted to do when she came back from the vets with these great big horrible stitches was run about and chase a ball, and I'm like, no, you can't do that. Try tell her that. Not happening. Okay, so we're going to get these, there's kind of ridges under here, so, but they taper, do they? Yeah, they taper. So we'll get some of this in. See, this doesn't make any sense because there's one here as well. I thought that they were on like under the bumpy bits, but they seem to be, this one doesn't seem to be for some reason. I'm gonna make it that way. I'm gonna make it so. This is actually really nice because I really have not had the chance to sketch just in graphite. Excuse me while I have some tea. Yeah, I've really not had the chance to just trying to sort the light balance here. I've really not had the chance to do a lot of sketching just because I have been horrendously busy with work and also with just other YouTube stuff. Like I've been doing a lot of painting. And I just feel as if I've abandoned my sketchbook recently. So this is actually really nice, and it's something that I need to try and like just spend more time doing things for myself. And I always say this, and I say it all the time, and all the art that I do, regardless of whether it's for the channel or just for myself, I mean, all of it I consider me time. But it's so easy to get railroaded into doing stuff. It's like, oh, I've got to film this video, or oh, I need to prepare this for this, or I need some ideas for my scroller challenge, that kind of thing. You get like really, really, really sucked into that, and the things that you enjoy doing, and for me it is the simple things like just sketching away with a pencil here. This really relaxes me, and it's one of my favourite things to do, and I have just stopped doing it because I feel as if I should be doing other things, or you know, that kind of stuff. And my sketchbook is very bare because of it, and that's something I've never had a problem with. I've always been fairly regular in sketching in my sketchbook, so I think it's something that I'm going to have to just kind of take a step back and, you know, just try and make that time for myself, because it's kind of important to me. So I love the variety though. Like obviously the channel is growing slowly and steadily, and that is so nice, and it's so rewarding. It really, really is. I love it. And I do like the variety in the videos that, you know, that, and the art experience that gives me, because I'm working in quite a lot of mediums now. I would say that pencil will always be my favourite, but I'm really enjoying watercolouring now, and I'm doing a lot more of that. So I am painting, I'm drawing, and I'm still colouring quite a lot as well. I'm not colouring as much as I used to, but I kind of knew that was going to happen because I've only got so many hours in the day. You know, something had to give somewhere, but that's okay because it's still part of you know, of my artiness and what I enjoy. And especially on days where my hand isn't so good, you know, if it's crampy or really unsteady, then it's perfect for me, and I really, really enjoy that. So it still has its place, but I just feel like my sketching and graphite's really just gone out the window this last wee while. And there's nothing simpler as well than just sitting with a pencil, a bit of paper, and I think that's why I enjoy it so much. Much as I enjoy the watercolouring, it is a faff. See, by the time you've got out palettes and your paints out and you've got your 2 cups of water, you know, one clean, one dirty, and you tape down your paper and all the rest of it, it's a lot. It really is a lot. And sometimes I just don't have that much time to, you know, mess about with that. So that's the perfect opportunity just to grab your, you know, your sketch pad and go and just scribble something down. And you can always go back to it later, that's the nice thing. So yeah, I really need to make a point of that. I do think that I manage my time quite well though, generally speaking. I'm quite an organised person, but I'm just very aware of the limitations of the time that I have. I am doing less outside now because we have reliable staff at the farm. I'm not really doing much outside at all now, which has helped. But I am very, very busy with my own work and things with the channel as well. So that time just to draw for the sake of drawing is still squeezed down to way, way less than, you know, than what I would like. But also the other thing as well is there's been a lot of times and a lot of evenings where I've got time to sit down and draw, but I'm just too tired, and I know that I won't be able to focus or concentrate properly, and I won't produce anything that I'm satisfied with, which kind of defeats the purpose of it in the first place. So there's kind of that as well. But I have been super tired lately. More so than usual. I mean, I don't sleep well anyway. Some of you'll know that anyway. I have insomnia. But I've just, yeah, things have been like, oh, crazy, crazy. Right, so there's really dark lines around here. I'm going to finish this part off and then I'm going to call it quits at that because time is going on. Again, time, it's always about time. So we want this to be really dark under here. And I'll just bring this up in here. I tell you what, I do have the overwhelming urge to draw, and this is going to sound ridiculous. Marvin the Martian. I love Marvin the Martian. He's my favourite Looney Tunes character. And I was watching a film on TV the other day, and it's called Clueless. I'm sure most of you have heard of it. It's a very 90s high school, you know, sort of coming of age type film. And it's about these rich kids. And they get this dowdy girl and try and, you know, like give her a makeover and stuff. But this girl, she draws Marvin the Martian, and I was like, I haven't drawn Marvin the Martian for years, and so he's my absolute favourite. There's not a lot to him. Again, as she says in the film, there's really not much to him at all. But that's the kind of fun thing that I could sit and sketch, because I could do it mostly from memory, I think, she says confidently. I could do it mostly from memory, and I wouldn't be far off the mark, and it would maybe just be like a little bit of refining I would need to do. So, you know, things like that, that's the kind of stuff that I need to kind of think about doing again. Purely for fun and no other reason, but that's, you know, that should be fun. Okay. I just want to put a little bit of, I know this isn't very tidy, but I will tidy these lines up as I go. Okay guys, let's have a little bit of a zoom out and have a look at how far we've gotten with this. Not very far, but far enough. That's a reasonable start. I think I'm quite happy with what I've got so far. And it's something that I think I will chip away at over the next maybe week or so, if I can get that little bit of time to myself. Let me know what you think in the comments. Does it look like a pineapple? Is it starting to look like a fountain? I know we had to kind of augment it slightly because I made a mistake, but that's okay. There's no mistakes, there's only happy accidents. Right guys, that is lovely to have you here for this little relaxed draw and chat. I hope you have enjoyed it. As always, I welcome your feedback in the comments section. And if you would like to see me draw anything in particular in these drawing chats, you can also leave me suggestions as well. I'm always open to suggestions. I hope you enjoy the rest of your Sunday, whatever it is you're doing, and we'll see you back in the cave on Thursday for another video. Bye for now, everyone.